Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 391. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Nicolau versus Perez. We're going to talk about that fight, the rest of the fights on this card, break them all down round by round. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel the way you know next videos coming out. I'd appreciate it. Let's start talking about fights. Let's get into these because I know this wasn't the most exciting night. There's not a lot of title implications. There's a little bit with the main event, but I understand. You know, we've still got a little bit of that hangover from UFC 300. Let's get into this. Okay, Matheus Nicolau taking on Alex Perez. First round, this is classic Nicolau stuff. I'm just looking at the rankings. I just want to see where they were. See, Nicolau was 5. I think it was 8. Yeah, 5 and 8. So Alex Perez is number 8. So they are, in the title picture, okay? Maybe not necessarily title contention, but title picture for sure. Both these guys. Nicolau, he got knocked out by Brandon Royval, and Royval got his title. He's fighting for the title. So Alex Perez in the same position could obviously get a title shot after this. I don't know if Nicolau going 2 losses in a row really puts him in that position, but we'll see. He's definitely one win away from a title shot for sure. Okay. Typical Nicolau fight with him backing up, just looking to counter, and Perez just was not obliging him. He just was not there to be hit. He wasn't looking to just rush in early in this first round, so there wasn't much to score. There wasn't much going on, not a lot to score early in this first round. And then Perez unloads a 5-piece combo going to the body, and then coming up top. He does it again. Nicolau wanted to land that big right hand, but Perez doing a good job avoiding the damage. Nicolau was trying to wave him in after he got hit with a decent shot from Perez. But again, Perez just stayed disciplined, did not dive in on that crap, did not bite on the fake. Sorry, didn't take the bait necessarily. And then Nicolau did land a good left hook in this round. Perez was able to just land more. You can see here on the striking numbers, 13-10. He landed more of this round. He landed good shots. I am curious to see. Yep, all 3 judges saw it the same way. That's correct. That's how it should have been scored. In the second round, they trade low kicks now. Perez rushes in and finds the uppercut. That was there in the middle of that barrage in the first round. It was here for him in the second round. Nicolau he wasn't running away as much to start this round, right? Normally, he hops on his bike and runs away, looking to counter, just like circling the outside of the cage, especially during any heavy interactions, any sort of grappling exchanges, any trading exchange. He doesn't want any part of that. He just wants to circle till he finds his one good shot and land a big shot. He wasn't doing that so much, and then he gets hit with a huge right hand from Perez, staggers him, and now he's on his bicycle, and he's on his bike, and that's exactly how he got knocked out. He was circling to his left, which is to the power hand of Perez, gets hit with that right hook and goes down, and it's all over. Perez with an excellent finish, the top five fighter. There's no reason to say that he isn't in title contention. But he not necessarily deserving of a title shot yet. Let's see how the division kind of circles around with Pantoja, but he is in a position to fight for a title very soon. All right, Ryan Spann taking on Bogdan Guskov. Another 2-rounder here. Spann landed a nice knee to the nuts. This was total bullshit. I don't want to harp on these too long. I don't want to get too into the weeds on a fight that not a lot of people are paying attention to. But Spann lands a knee to the nuts along the fence. Then Herb forces them back into that same position, punishing Guskov for saying he got kicked in the nuts. Makes absolutely no sense. And then Spann, after he gets put back in that position, immediately knees him in the nuts again. There is not a clearer time to take a point than this. There are as clear points to take a point, but not clearer. This is as clear as it can get. He committed a foul in a position. For whatever reason, I don't know if he had a brain fart or if he thought that Guskov didn't take a low blow or whatever, and it puts him back in that position and commits the exact same foul, the exact same way, not 10 seconds after getting reset. That's as clear of a point deduction time as you can get. No point deduction. None. Spann finding the mark with that right hand, counters Guskov's pressure with the double underhooks and a nice takedown, gets to the ground, stays on top for the rest of the round. Obviously, his round 10-9. He should have been 9-9, but it is what it is. Second round here, Guskov able to find the mark with that left hook and a hard right hand, making Spann react really big. He wants to shoot for a takedown. No dice there. Spann just does land a nice right hand. He lands a couple of them, but Guskov just has this iron chin. I think he's going to be a big problem. Hard uppercut from Guskov makes Spann shoot yet again, and Guskov finishes the job with some ground and pound. Great win for Guskov. I'll tell you, with the combination, with his combinations, but also with the combination of his chin. He's got a very good chin. His precision, right? He's not necessarily the fastest striker, but his precision is very good. He's not slow by any means. His power's great. It's going to be a problem for a lot of people. Now, if you can take him down, he can be controlled. So, I think that the path to victory is very laid out for people. It's whether or not they can walk it. So we will see. All right, the artist formerly known as Lipski, Ariane de Silva taking on Karine Silva. Boy, what a fun one. Just the names. Silva versus Silva. Close fight. Karine, I'm going to say their first names for the most part here. If I slip back into their last names, we'll see what happens. But for the most part, I'm going to say their first names. Karine getting the body lock takedown. Ariane she was able to reverse with about 45 seconds left, but just not that much time. There was more time under control for Karine. The striking numbers were 7-4 in favor of Ariane, but it wasn't so much damage in that round. Now, if you look at the control time here, it shows that Karine had more control time. I thought it was even more than this. I don't know what they're considering that minute and 45 seconds or 43 seconds for Silva. It shouldn't. For De Silva. I don't know what they were talking about there. Don't think it should have been that. But I gave this first round to Karine. Second round. Let's see. Ariane was able to. She was looking good on the feet, but gets way too far over her feet, and then Karine able to get the takedown again. Karine going for the leg lock, and then ends up just standing up. Karine staying on the back using the twister hook. Beautiful stuff. And she banks another round. So again, striking numbers 10-9 in favor of Karine. Not really that big of a deal. It was at 3 minutes and 40 seconds of control time. Lots of back control. I had a 2018. So in my opinion, I thought Ariane. She needs a finish here. So she's in her face, really trying to get it done. So it looked like, that was communicated to her in between rounds. When they're at range, Ariane's doing a good job of using combos, getting out in front, but she's getting too close again and ends up in these clinches. Now, in those clinches, she was still able to do some stuff, but it was not the best place for her, not the most likely position to get a finish. She needed to be at range. And I don't know what her decision making was. I don't know if it was in the moment, just something that she's used to in its body. Muscle memory, but Karine gets the body lock takedown with a minute 15 left. They get back up, but, Karine definitely lost this last round. So, look at the striking numbers here, 26-13 in favor of Ariane. Clearly her round, no argument here, 29-28. So all two of the judges had it 29-28. I am curious because one of them gave it 30-27. I want to see Adelaide Bird. That makes sense. So here we go, guys. Let's just look at this. I don't want to I'm not trying to pick things out to harp on because I'd like to keep moving, keep this at a good pace. But this is important to focus on. Mike Bell, he's not a bad judge by any means. I say this a lot, so pardon me, excuse me for having to say this again. But some people might never have heard me say it. Mike Bell, I often disagree with his decisions. I think we have a fundamental disagreement over what damage is, what's more damaging, what control means, that kind of stuff. And I think I often disagree with him in close fights. So that can happen. But I think he is very consistent with his judging for the most part. He has screwed up before. It's cost someone their title. So he's not perfect by any means, but no person is. I think overall Mike Bell is a pretty good judge so far. Saul D'Amato, famous for being a shitty judge. I think recently he's had a couple snafus in the last couple years, but generally speaking, he's kept his name out of the headlines. He's been pretty consistent with his decision making, and I think it's weird. My card tends to line up with Saul D'Amato's card a lot, and in these split decision things. So he might be looking for the same thing as me. Now, if if you're going to look down on me because you hear that name and you say like, oh, well, he's agreeing with him, he must be an idiot. Fine, that's fine. That's your opinion. You're more than welcome to go through and look at these fights from a judge's perspective, score them yourselves, and see how you come up and who you agree with. It's subjective. This is how this works. I lay all that out to just outright rag on Adelaide Byrd. What a fucking shit show. This is horrible. Who gives that last round to Karine? There is nothing in that last round. I don't care how you scored the first 2 rounds. Each round is their own entity. I don't give a shit that you're like, like if her attitude is, well, the first 2 rounds were to Karine, so it doesn't matter how I score this last one. It's close enough. I'll just give it to Karine. That's terrifying if that's her thought process. What else could it be? It could be that she outright doesn't pay attention at all and completely gets it wrong, doesn't understand the scoring criteria. She is horrific when it comes to scoring fights. No consistency whatsoever. Absolutely ignorant to what's going on out there, apparently. And the one thing that is consistent about her is being fucking terrible. This is a bad scorecard. I know it didn't cost a fighter a win necessarily. That's not the point. The point is this is a bad scorecard because this round is fucking clear as day. You cannot give this last round to Karine. It wasn't her round. I guarantee you, go across all possible scoring, and no one's given that round to Karine. I bet you her coaches wouldn't even give her that round. That's a horrible scorecard. All right, Austen Lane versus Jhonata Diniz. Lane, I just don't see it. I'm not a big fan. I've seen him fight a few times now. I'm not a big fan of his skill set. I don't think he is. He's obviously athletic, played football and stuff like that. I get that. I'm not gonna sit here and shit on his abilities completely, but he's got a lot of holes in his game, and I just don't think he's. It's heavyweight, so obviously I think he is UFC. I think he is UFC caliber. I just don't think he is a well-rounded mixed martial artist in any way. There's nothing about his game that says like, oh, he's really good at this. I think he's just generally athletic, like a lot of the football players who come over. Nice voice crack there. Diniz waiting in with the guard high, and Lane bouncing around a lot on the outside. Lane with that right leg gathered to the single leg, and beautiful takedown. Gets on top, dominates his first round on the ground. Not a lot of damage, which I think cost him in the second round. Had he laid out some damage here, made Diniz tired, made him work more instead of just kind of sitting there, where he just allowed Diniz to kind of rest on bottom. I know that's not an ideal position, and he gave away the round, but Lane used up energy, stayed here, and then went for takedowns in the second round, wasn't able to get them, and it cost him. Lane pressing forward for the takedown, couldn't get it. Diniz landed some really clean hooks inside. Lane failing on a takedown. Diniz uses this to get one up, one down. I hate that position. I think that position should never exist ever again. I can't stand it when one person's laying on their back and the other person's standing up. Either you immediately re-engage, like you have to be throwing strikes all the time, 100% of the time. The second you take a step back, I don't care if it's to readjust for strikes or whatever it is. If you're off balance, forget it. The guy comes up. Too many fighters use this. Kamaru Usman famously used it against Gilbert Burns to recover, right? Gilbert Burns slipped. Gilbert Burns was on the verge of winning the title in the first round, slips, falls down, and then Usman uses that position, kicks him multiple times in the butthole. Not joking. Go look at that. He's getting that big toe deep in that hole. So gross. Really exploring the colon. Anyway, what I'm saying is he used that position is often exploited, right, for no gain to anybody else except for the standing fighter. And it's not an athletic position. It's not a finishing position. It's nothing when they're just standing there, throwing meaningless. Like I would say, throwing meaningless kicks, sparse seconds apart. That's not okay. Stand them up. Anyway, use this to rest, as a lot of fighters do. Lane, he just doesn't have any energy. Diniz lands a left to hook and multiple times, and then Lane goes down. Really sloppy fight, too, for a guy who's a technical kickboxer, from what I'm told, from Diniz. It's just not, it was not the prettiest fight. It's heavyweights. So it is what it is. I'm not a fan of Lane. I think he should take some time off. Up his skill set, kind of find a piece of his game. So this is what I find. I got 2 more fights to go through on this card, but let me take a quite a quick detour. If you don't want to hear my opinion on this stuff, that's fine. Timestamps are down below for the last 2 fights, right? I'll try to only do this in a couple minutes. So if you're familiar with the belt system in jiu-jitsu, often what you'll find is like white belt, right? People say like, oh, this is where you just defend. Like you just learn to survive. And blue belt, you start to learn how to put together some offensive moves and you understand the basics, blah, blah, blah. And then purple belt, you have a game, right? Blue belt, you start to develop your game. So I think that can go for any martial art. I don't have experience in any other ones, but I think for anything in life, really, like when you first learn to do something, let's call it, like you call it your style, right? But when you first learn to do something, I don't care if it's athletic, like, you know, playing basketball, football, baseball, or art, right? But, you know, any kind of art you want, like, I don't care if it's watercolors, oil painting, just pencil drawings, like whatever it might be, realistic stuff. You spend the majority of your formative years in that experience of that skill developing the basics, right? Learning the basics. And then because you're focusing on the basics, you can't really focus on, you know, bending those things to become your own, making the game your own, making the art style your own. You don't come up with your own style because you're just learning how to do the stuff. I think this is what happens with these athletes who come over, especially I've seen it from American football. Now, this could be biased because I pay attention to it now, but Matt Mitrione had this problem. You know, we had the whole, I forget his name. He's not memorable, and I don't really care about him anymore. The dude who used the inhaler, and everybody hated the guy who beat his wife. I don't like, whatever. Wasn't a fan of his anyway. Lane, OSP. Oh, okay. OSP is not the exception. He's a different animal here. So we got these football players who come in, especially professional ones, with a ton of athleticism, probably more athletic than anybody in the UFC. And for those people who don't watch other sports, similar to like Joe Rogan, where he's like talks about how Francis Ngannou could play any professional sport. No, he couldn't. He couldn't. I mean, I don't want to outright say that. He might be able to, but it's not a guarantee. Just because the guy's got muscles and he's 6'4" doesn't mean he can do anything. There's a lot of guys like that who don't play in the NBA, who can't play in the NFL. There's a bunch of people who get cut from the NFL every single day. All season long, people are getting cut, can't play professional sports. And they're as athletic, if not more athletic, than anybody who's ever stepped foot inside the octagon. So anyway, so these fighters, they come over to the mixed martial arts and they essentially just get away with their bad habits. They overwhelm someone with their athleticism. They're too fast, they're too strong, they're too positionally stubborn, right? They will not budge on their positions. They're just an animal physically. And when you do that for a long enough time, especially at heavyweight is where you see it the most, you'll make it to the higher levels of MMA. You're going to beat these guys who have a little bit of skill and are not athletic at all. You're going to beat them. A hard-hitting guy who's got no athletic ability and like a little bit of skill. Guess what? I mean, he could make it far too, but you know, the guy who's really athletic and can hit hard, well, now he goes. So it's just one of those things where I'm not a fan of watching these guys kind of develop in the UFC. It doesn't bode well for them or their career. I haven't seen it successful in many cases. I guess if they're a big name and they come over, they bring attention over, and that's fine. But I when I see that, when people are like, oh, played professional football, instead of thinking like, man, what a crazy athlete, he's gonna kick everyone's ass, I instinctively think, oh, I bet you he doesn't have a very well-rounded game. All right, let's move on. That is long enough. Jonathan Pearce taking on David Onama. So David Onama missed weight by 2.5 pounds. Now, this is important because especially the way he explained it afterwards. I will mention this, and then I might I sound sour, but I really hate weight misses, man. This is not for anybody out there who's like, oh man, who's a fan of David Onama. Great, he's a really good fighter. I don't think his skills are bad. I think he makes for some interesting fights too. He's got some holes in his game that make for interesting fights. Anybody out there who's like, oh, well, then you go cut weight. One, I have cut weight before. I know what it feels like. I've done it for different sports. I know what it feels like. It sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. Two, I didn't tell anybody that I would make weight and then not do it. I didn't do that. You're saying, hey, I'm going to show up to the fight and I'm going to weigh this much. You lied. You didn't. So he says he missed weight because his body just shut down and will let him cut weight. And then the commission said they wouldn't let him cut anymore with that last hour left. So people might take away from that, oh, the commission is why he didn't weigh weight. Nope, he's the reason. He planned it poorly. If you are cutting so much weight and that you are required to remove that much water from your body, I think you're doing it wrong. You're playing a dangerous game. It will catch up to you eventually. It clearly caught up to him here. And then not only did he miss the weight by 2.5 pounds, he didn't even try for that last hour. Whether he was told to or not, that's fine. I'm not saying that. But then he's allowed to just recover for that last hour instead of forcing himself to get down to that weight. I think it did play a role in this fight. If you watch the way it played out, I've seen Onama get tired before. Yes, he still has power in his hands and he still will move, but he does get tired. In this fight, it didn't look like that so much. So Onama was using his reach really well to land at range. Pearce was able to get the takedown with 125 less, but it gets reversed and ends up on bottom. I thought David Onama out. He landed 14. Oh man, he got outlanded here too. This round was close. Onama was on top for a little bit of it. It was 50-49 for this. This round was razor thin. I gave it to Onama. I thought that his position on top looked fine. I thought his shots landed with a little bit more force. I think he did more damage. The rest of the stuff, it was so damn close, man. I went to Onama in this first round. Second round, Onama goes for the guillotine and Pearce ends up on top, takes the back multiple times during this round. They rotate through. This is clearly Pearce's round. No argument here. A great job by him. 19-19. Last round, Pearce was not able to control on the ground. Got outstruck in this last round. And they end up swinging away each other, which was really fun ending to the fight, but it did nothing to sway how the rest of the thing went. Looking at the scorecards, that's how every single judge saw it. Eric Colon, Saul D'Amato, and Juran Valal. So, it is what it is. I am not a fan. I've made my peace on that. I don't like when people miss weight. I think it's incredibly unprofessional, regardless if it's happened one time or 100. It doesn't matter. It's 20% is not enough. Jonathan Pearce now, he has a loss on his record that no one's ever going to mention that he lost or that Onama won. Look how close this fight is. If this fight was a blowout in Onama's favor, some of you guys could be like, oh, come on, man. It wasn't even close. Onama was going to kick his ass regardless. Even though that could still be wrong, and I don't really buy that argument necessarily, let's just say that happened. That didn't happen, though. What we had was a razor-thin first round, a dominant round by Pearce in the second round, and then Onama having the gas in the third round to throw strikes out there. What happens if he cuts those extra 2.5 pounds, can't put on as much weight afterwards, really drags himself down there, comes in less than healthy, and then can't make it through that third round? What do you think is going to happen? Maybe he gets finished in that second round. You don't know. We're all just speculating here. You speculate. I can do it too. Who gives a shit? I just hate this stuff. It takes away from the fight. I don't want to talk about it. This is dumb. That Onama does win. So if he misses weight again and this becomes a pattern, then we need to really call into question his ability to fight at this weight class. If he doesn't, then it's a blip on his record and whatever. But Pearce is always going to have that loss on his record now. Never going to go away because the other guy missed weight. He'll have an extra 20%, but that's not that much money. This person, what's he making? What's Onama making? 5 and 5? So he's going to take $2,000 away, which he's going to have to pay half of that to taxes anyway. He's going to get an extra $1,000 and lose out on opportunities, move down the rankings. Who knows what? It's not worth it. I would just take if you have the ability, I would just go the Wonder Boy method and just not to fight the people who miss weight. Tim Means versus Uros Medic. Not a lot to break down here. Means getting that body lock and clinch control along the fence for a minute and then a left uppercut from Medic and follow up. The ref waves it off. Fine stoppage, I think. It was a little early, probably could take in one more, but Means didn't seem to have a problem with it. And I'm not, Means is getting a little long in the tooth and he is getting kind of chinny. So, I'm not horribly upset at that. I think it was fine. So that's it. Thank you guys for stopping by. Like I said at the beginning, if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. That way the next video is coming out. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed, this card for the amount of stuff that happened. I thought there was a lot of fights that were fun to watch. I think if you are not necessarily a hardcore fan. I say this a lot. Go back and watch the Alex Perez finish. Check out Bogdan Guskov. These guys are going to. I think Bogdan Guskov is going to be a problem. We'll see how he handles some takedown stuff, but keep that name in mind. The Silva sisters. I know they're not sisters, but they fought. That one is okay. It's fine. You can watch that one. The Austen Lane Diniz, at heavyweight being another striker, that could be fun. The Pearce Onama one, it was, a little bit lackluster, but there was a lot going on here, especially the main two, for future implications. So go ahead and watch this card. I do recommend it. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Love you guys. Have an amazing week.